Hello, everyone. Welcome back to StutterBox. I'm Stutter. This is a box, and The Invite might be the funniest movie of the year.
Namaste.
If you've been alive and online for the past couple weeks, you may have seen a bunch of clips from The Invite circulating the internet.
I love them.
Really? You love my orgasms?
And I went into this movie not expecting much, but I was rooting for it. I was rooting for it because this was directed by Olivia Wilde, who had an incredible directorial debut with Booksmart. And it was so good that when her second movie came around, don't worry, darling, don't worry, it sucked.
I gave this to you! I gave you all of this, Alice!
And she even said in interviews recently that she's thankful for the flop that the movie was because it allowed herself to remove the pressure off of her next project and just go into it with an open mind. And we got a masterpiece.
Yes. Yes, we have.
We do have one.
We've been waiting.
Also, Olivia Wilde is like the inventor of the most iconic GIF of all time, the Olivia Wilde nod. And it's a masterpiece for several reasons. First and foremost, the way it's filmed. Olivia Wilde and the cinematographer agreed to shoot on film because it is a more generous medium on human faces, and the whole story takes place during a dinner. But also the way that she shoots, you can see the camera angles evolve because for the first part of the movie, when it's just the first couple, half of the screen is always blocked by something. It's almost like we're spying on their personal lives, like we're violating their privacy and we're not supposed to be watching this conversation unfold, but we are. And the action is only ever happening on a small section of the screen. And it's not always at the center, which means that this movie was not made to be clipped by TikTokers, thank God. It just feels like a movie that was made with passion for movies. The acting, everyone does a really good job. Seth Rogen is admittedly a bit more himself than everyone else. Edward Norton's character is very subdued, very quiet, chaotic genius, but it really is Olivia Wilde and Penelope Cruz that steal the show. That's right, Olivia Wilde is behind the camera, in front of the camera, and she does a fucking bang-up job at it. But Penelope Cruz...
As horny as I am right now,
Then there's the humor. This movie is a comedy slash drama, but less on the drama, more on the comedy. But it's not a type of comedy, haha, laugh out loud, fart joke. It's more quiet chaos, smart writing, haha, laugh out loud. At several points in the movie, I was audibly cackling. I was in tears. But more so than comedy, there's also the emotional story at its center, and it's all about the dwindling relationship of a couple who's been in a long-term relationship for a while. They're married, they have a daughter, and over the years, resentment builds and leaves the relationship in a weird place that is really difficult to get out of unless you communicate. I should probably start with The Invite follows a couple that is struggling and invites another couple over for dinner. And what follows is the convergence of everyone's egos, everyone's expectations, everyone's desires. And it presents a lot of interesting dichotomies. The more uptight person versus the one that's more in touch with their sexual fantasies. Monogamy versus openness. And then you see these very contrasting couples at very different stages in their relationship. Oh, stuttering. It all comes together beautifully, both in the humor, in the emotional arc, in the acting, in the framing. The music is very pared down, subdued, and it just like highlights the comedic moments of the movie. It punctuates certain moments that had me, again, screaming. And for all of those reasons, I want to yap about it. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. I watched it on my birthday. Say happy birthday, thank you. And it was not a movie that I thought I would ever want to cover because it's a good movie. We're used to talking more about shit movies here, but maybe I should do a little bit of a pivot and start including good movies as well because, you know, good film analysis with a good story might be fun. So if you're into that, don't forget to subscribe down below because you will feel so much better and you will look so much better. So there's an opening quote, and we love an opening quote, that says, "One should always be in love. That is the reason one should never marry." Oscar Wilde. Interesting quote, because there's like this running joke amongst married people that marriage kills the relationship. Once you're married, your sex life ends, your intimacy ends, and it just becomes like a job, a chore that you have to perform. And so to stay in love, you should never get married. It's like a sadistic ritual of passage that marriage becomes aspirational for those who aren't yet married, and the cause of all problems for those who are married. Our story happens in San Francisco, and our main couple are Joe and Angela. Joe is a failed musician turned jazz band teacher at a music conservatory, and Angela is a stay-at-home wife. Together, they have a daughter called Maggie. She's 12 years old, and she's absent for the entire film because she's at a sleepover. And from the start, their relationship is highly contentious. Joe gets home from work, he's really tired, lays on the floor, and she starts nagging him straight away that he didn't fold a bike, he didn't put it away. That was the whole point of getting a folding bike. And he finds out that she has invited the upstairs couple for dinner that same night, and they are on their way. They'll be there in like 10-15 minutes. And they start arguing. He accuses her of not speaking to him, of not asking him these questions, these things, but she tells him that she told him the night before and he just never listens to her. So much so that she texted him to get wine on the way home and he didn't. He ignored her. And she is a little bit neurotic about this dinner. And she talks about the upstairs couple with like such admiration and appreciation, borderline horniness. She's making a souffle. Like, do you know how hard it is to make a souffle? And he's mainly pissed off because he doesn't like this couple. See, this couple are very noisy. They've been making a lot of noise during the night over the last couple weeks. And by noise, I mean they've been fucking really loudly. They've been fucking like monsters. It sounds like they're gonna go through the floor sometimes. So to be super petty, he says, either you cancel the dinner or I'm gonna bring up the noise. I'm gonna ask them why they're so fucking noisy in the middle of the night because we can't sleep. It's been bothering us. And she's terrified of it because if he brings it up, it's gonna make it awkward. Plus, she has an appreciation for the orgasms that woman is having upstairs. She even tells him, do you know how hard it is for a woman to come and want to scream that much? And all that tells me that Angela hasn't fucked in a while. She's so desperate to impress that because they don't have wine, she says mid-conversation that she's gonna pre-pop a bottle of champagne. So it's fizzed out by their arrival, and then it's just like a wine. This is her pointing to the fucking souffle she just did. Do you see how serious this shit is? Look at her face. And again, the comedy is found in the more unassuming moments, like the way she says, you sound like your father.
You sound like your father.
And this back and forth escalates to the point where they're just screaming at each other, and that's when the couple from upstairs ring the doorbell. First impressions. The couple are called Pina and Hawk, and it's immediately awkward because Hawk has no filter, and he says that they took a long time to open the door and that they could hear them outside screaming inside and ask them if everything's okay. And though Joe sees that as an opportunity to, maybe excuse them for the night and reschedule, Hawk says that they love a contentious environment and they would be happy to just stay, and so the dinner goes ahead, much to Joe's chagrin. It pisses him off. Angela from the get-go is very apologetic and very desperate to be liked. It's like hanging out with the cool kids and you want to impress them, so you do whatever it takes. You grovel, you debase yourself. It's quite humiliating and pathetic. Whereas Joe is an abrasive little cunt, especially towards Hawk. He doesn't actually dare to look in Pina's direction because she's like so fucking pretty, and Joe is clearly intimidated by her beauty, but he has no problems being a bit of a dick to Hawk. And Pina and Hawk from the get-go are, first of all, super complimentary about the apartment. They mention that they were curious to see how other apartments were and how big theirs was specifically. And they compliment the decor, they compliment the furniture, they compliment how everything is laid out. They ask if they have money because everything looks so expensively done, except it wasn't expensive. It all came from Angela. And all of the compliments bring this woman to tears. And though they're heartfelt tears, it's really funny. Like, the whole scene just reminds me of that song, White Woman's Instagram, it's a white woman. And this is her when someone compliments the bang she got over the weekend. A bold move that paid off. And Olivia was eating it. They brought them a flan. Pina says, this is my Spanish flan. Angela's like, oh my God, a flan, how elegant. And then Hawk says, fair warning, once you try Pina's flan, there's no going back. You'll be at our door late at night, like a junkie under the bridge saying, we need a score, like heroin.
Wow.
Then Pina says, you might want to put it in the fridge. So she heads over to the kitchen, everyone follows her, and she super nonchalantly opens the oven, takes out her burnt souffle, drops it in the bin, and casually just looks around the room like it was all intentional, like, Then comes the time to offer drinks, and they obviously ask them, what would you like? And they say, wine is fine. And that's obviously the worst answer because they don't have any wine. So Angela looks at Joe, and they have like one of those quiet arguments in front of people that couples sometimes have where you lock in and you're like, we have wine, right? We have wine, Joe. We have wine. And in this staring contest, what she means to say is that they should open the bottle of wine that Joe's uncle got them as a special gift for a very super special occasion that they've been saving for a while.
That's not where it is.
It's usually in there. It should be in there.
No, it's never been in there. No.
The quiet chaos starts building, and Pina and Hawk seem rather amused by all of the bickering. And honestly, I would be too. I think it's far more entertaining to see a couple unravel and go at each other's throats than fake pleasantries. Like, show me what you got. Show me the crazy that goes around in this house.
Well, I
It's
mean,
not
I know
there.
for
No,
sure.
because I never would have put it in there. That's not where it goes.
Often is in there.
Pina and Hawk mentioned that they're thinking of having kids, but it's not a priority right now. And Joe says, well, you should probably hurry up, because of age.
Whose age?
Angela, as I mentioned, is desperate to impress her. She needs friends. And she prepared this huge charcuterie board full of meat and cheese and crackers. So she mentions that she prepared a little something just to remind Pina of home, a little gesture, nothing much. And then she picks up a bit of prosciutto and she's like, it's just a little jamon. The way she confidently says jamon with a fucking smile on her face had me in tears because that's not jamon. Jamon is ham. That's prosciutto. Pina's like, oh, that's so sweet. And I love how you say it. Oh, say it again, please. She's like,
Jamon.
Pina says, oh my God, that is so sweet. I will eat you. I don't eat meat.
I don't eat meat.
The face crack on Angela's face cracked. I lost it. She then offers her cheese because if she doesn't eat meat, surely she'll eat cheese. Nope, she doesn't eat cheese either. She's a vegan. So she offers crackers, the last thing on the table. And she says, no crackers for me as well. She doesn't have sugars, gluten, dairy, meat, and Angela wants to set herself on fire. And Angela continues unraveling. And it all starts with Pina saying that she's so surprised that she was able to pull all of this off because they only agreed to this dinner that morning. Huh? Because you'll remember I said earlier that Joe had a problem with Angela inviting them for dinner because she didn't tell him. She said, no, I told you last night, you just never listened. So now, turns out, she didn't tell him. She just sprung up the dinner on him to gaslight him into not being able to say no. I don't think that's what gaslighting is, but he's having a field day with this. He's like, oh, so it was this morning. And Pina's like, yep, just this morning. And Angela's like, well, maybe it's yesterday's morning. She starts hyperventilating. She starts like running out of breath and shivering. And it's just Pina looking at her like this and then goes, this happens a lot. I can't with her. Also, fun fact, piña in Spanish is pineapple. Piña then talks about menopause and she starts explaining how annoying it is that so many people are still so uninformed about menopause and everything that it causes. And Joe cracks a joke because Joe just loves to crack jokes. He doesn't take anything seriously. And Pina looks at him with disappointment and Angela looks at him with pure hatred. So Pina turns into Bob Ross and paints a picture for Joe. Imagine if this was your testicles and they shriveled up in your body and then they were just flapping around freely inside of your scrotum for the next 30 years, all shriveled up and dead. You wouldn't like that, would you? And Angela's face like, yeah, fuck you. Because see, Pina, turns out, is a psychotherapist and a sexologist. So she knows about these things. She knows about intimacy, relationships, sex, sexuality. And then Hawk finds Joe's piano in his study. And it turns out music is a really sore subject for Joe. Because Joe used to be in a band and it was quite a decent band. But then it kind of went nowhere. And now he's teaching at a music conservatory, a bad school by his standards. And it's such a sore subject that they have to stop talking about it immediately before Joe has a little aneurysm. And then Hawk compliments Angela's rug.
Oh, come on. La alfombra.
Okay. Because see, Joe noticed earlier that she bought this rug. It's a new rug. And he suspects she got it because they were having visitors over. So the fact that Hawk literally gets on the floor and rubs himself against the rug and says, oh my God, this is so amazing. Where did you get this? And then he checks the label and apparently it's a really expensive rug from like a famous rug designer. And she's pissing her panties with excitement over this shared interest. She starts clinging on it like it's a fucking life raft from the Titanic. She's grabbing onto this shared interest like, yes, this is what we're gonna fucking talk about all night, which I can relate a lot. You know, when you're meeting new people and you find something that you guys like in common, you're like, okay, if we keep talking about this, we're never gonna run out of things to say. Because that's a real fear when you're getting to know people, if you don't like people in general, like me, for example. And through it all, Joe maintains his abrasiveness towards, again, mainly Hawk, going so far as disparaging him for having been a firefighter in the past because Joe doesn't think that he has a believable enough physique that he was ever a firefighter. Joe the asshole versus the world. Until things change. Weed bringing people together. Joe decides to smoke a joint in his office and he knows that Angela can't say no to him in front of guests. And Pina offers to go with him. She also wants to have a puff. And that leaves Angela alone with Hawk. And it's the funniest thing ever. Angela, again, is holding on to that shared interest for rugs. So she takes him on a little tour of the house. And this is her in her bathtub, walking him through all of the design choices that she's made. Super proud of herself, but also like fishing for compliments, like, it's nothing special, but whatever, right? And she's so proud of herself. Look at her, the body language of this woman. And Hawk's like, yeah, my main interest was just like rugs, not necessarily like interior design. If I were to look at your bathroom, I don't know, I'd say it's a vintage, nice looking bathroom. And that's a little crushing for her. You can tell that she's a little disappointed that she's run out of shared interests to talk about with him. They do get to talking and she shares with Hawk that Joe has some insecurities in terms of their finances and their private life because they are living in his childhood apartment. That was his parents' house and he grew up there and now he's living there with his wife and he doesn't feel proud of that. He feels like a failure. She then asks him for help in picking the right blue for the room and it's a little Devil Wears Prada moment again, but this time with wall colors, and he just tells her to envision the future, the vision that she wants for her future. On one hand, she can be old and married to the same person. On the other hand, she can consciously choose to be single. Or on the third option, she can be single, living an adventure, and maybe meeting a stranger at an airport. And she goes for the last option, single but ready for adventure. Something they both agree on. They choose the same color and then they just lean up against the wall talking about all of these different blues. And they are different. And if you think they're not, then you're colorblind. And back in the office, Pina and Joe smoke and they talk flirtatiously. You know, Pina is a very sensual woman. She has that Spanish sensuality about her. And I can say that I'm Portuguese. But they bond over first the fact that that was not jamon, that was prosciutto. And she called it ham instead of the right word. And that was really fucking funny. And also over how fucking stupid Hawk's name is. Name Hawk. She even says at one point, hello, my name is Pigeon.
What is your name? My name is Pigeon.
And the easiest way to send Angela into a little bit of a panic mode is to ask her for anything. Hawk says, hey, do you have tequila? She nearly has a mental breakdown. She has to remove herself into the bathroom for a few moments to catch her breath and to cool off. And then it's the turning point. They're all together again, and Joe really wants to ask them about the noise, but Angela hijacks the conversation, stops him from saying anything, and then Hawk and Pina actually say they wanted to apologize for all the noise that they've been making because they know it's been bothering them. And they're sorry. They're genuinely sorry. Obviously, them apologizing over it first makes it awkward. So like Angela says, no, what? No, I haven't heard anything. Have you, Joe? And Joe's like, nah, I also didn't hear anything. You're fine. And Hawk's like, come on, Joe, you don't have to lie. You can be honest. We know that we bothered you. He insists that he wasn't. So Hawk pulls up the security footage of their Ring camera that they captured on one night when Joe walked up there and banged on their door in the middle of the night when they were making noise and then ran off and tripped on a plant pot and fell on the floor. So he feels cornered and he finally lets his feelings be heard. Yes, he's bothered. They are inconsiderate. Even their daughter can hear them upstairs. They've been fucking like monsters. And the whole time Hawk and Pina are just like, oh, this is so cute. Like watching a dog trying to walk on his hind legs. Obviously, Angela's super apologetic. And when they get to talking about the loud orgasms, Angela says, no, I love your orgasms.
Love them.
Really? You love my orgasms?
As it turns out, Pina and Hawk haven't just been fucking each other. They've been hosting sex parties. Angela's really into it and she fires up a bunch of questions consecutively, one after the other. Look at her eager little face. Olivia you were shining so bright in this movie. The sex parties are a recent development, and they don't go on apps looking for couples. They like to meet couples in real life. They like to assess the connection in person, the chemistry. The connection always has to come from a positive place. It can't be out of anger or out of revenge. So they really believe in like energy. And Joe absentmindedly asks if people ever get left out or excluded because he feels like he would be excluded straight away. But Pina looks at him and says, no, you would be chosen. And they also say that when it comes to jealousy, because that's obviously a main point of contention in monogamy, Pina says it's about perspective. And jealousy, you know, you can turn that perspective into finding joy in the joy of others. And she says that she feels immense joy when she sees her love, Hawk, be in the arms of another person feeling joy as well. And Angela, my God, she is melting into a pool of excitement. She's like, oh, so healthy. Just you and two friends for such a good number. You know, it's round.
Four is such a good number.
4G. Yeah.
Yeah, it's round.
When she said that 4 is such a nice number, it's round. But they're like, no, we could have 6 people. Last weekend, we broke our record and we had 10. And, ooh, clean up on aisle 4 because Angela and Joe's jaws are on the floor. What do you mean 10 people in a sex party? I fear the day that any straight person goes into a gay sex party because let me not. This is also when Olivia Wilde's face starts doing the most, and I have never been more thankful for neuroticism as I am right now, because she becomes neurotic with her facial expressions, just trying to navigate all of these different dynamics, like this new open discovery that this hot couple are hosting sex parties. The fact that Angela just wants Pina so bad, especially when Pina said that she's always been bi-curious. Ooh, you can sense Angela's mind just exploding with possibility and desire. She turns into a yes. Oh my God, yes, totally agree. Oh, anal. Who doesn't love anal? Of course, it's not about penetration. It's about surrender. It's got to surrender that body. And they mention that there are like menus at these sex parties. You know, everyone says what they're into so that when you get there, you can pair up with whoever's into the same things as you. And there's no awkwardness of trying to figure it out like in the moment. And so they start talking about menus and what people like doing, like bondage, role playing, and Angela goes DP. And she's fully confident, like really trying to participate in the conversation. Like, oh my God, yes, I totally get like role playing, DP, yes. And no one matches her freak.
God.
DP. Have
DP.
DP.
So her face starts like unraveling. She's going through all of the motions of like, no, it's fine. It's no judgment. You know, I'm just not trying to judge it. But nonetheless, it's all positive, and Pina and Hawk are so appreciative and thankful that they're being so progressive and open-minded about this. They're being so accepting. Until the window thing. So there's this window in their apartment that looks directly into one of the windows in Pina and Hawk's apartment. And the window thing is this little thing that started off when one day Angela walked out of the shower naked and walked past the window and looked up and saw that Hawk was watching her. And he saw her naked, and she just continued walking off. And ever since then, whenever she showers, she walks out of the shower naked, knowing that he may or may not be up there looking. She never looks back, never makes eye contact, but it's the fantasy of being seen naked and potentially desired. Joe has a big fat problem with it. Of course he does, because, you know, he's I guess, the more heteronormative of the bunch. He's the one who seems to want to follow more the conventions of a heterosexual monogamous couple, and looking at another man's wife naked is an absolute fucking cardinal sin. He even says at one point, I'm not a weirdo who wants to look at another guy's wife naked just to jerk off, even though that's not what it's about. Pina even says it's about the erotic fantasies that people allow themselves to have, because it's just like a small thing that fulfills you, and it doesn't mean that you have to follow through with more than just the little ritual of walking around naked and feeling watched. So Pina intervenes and she says, what do we all want? Desire. To be desired. Maybe that's why you look at my boobs in the elevator every time you see me.
Maybe that's why you look at my boobs in the elevator every time I see you.
That changes the whole conversation, because here was Joe giving Angela shit, and there he is ogling Pina's breasts in the elevator. When you look at my boobs, do they seem out of reach to you? Do you feel worthy of desiring them? This movie is comedy gold thanks to Penelope Cruz and Olivia Wilde. She's like, look at my boobs right now. Go on, look, I've got 2 of them. And Hawk's like, yeah, you can look, man. And Angela goes, don't be rude, look at them. And that's when Joe kind of flips and accuses Angela of plotting this whole thing, inviting them down because she knew that they were hosting sex parties and she wanted to be invited. This was all a ploy on Angela's side. But Pina and Hawk are quickly to laugh at the ridiculousness of the suggestion, of the accusation. They're like, no, we never spoke to Angela about any of this before tonight. No, but that is why we came. The invite. Hawk and Angela admit that they are down there to invite them to one of their sex parties. And suddenly the energy shifts and it's nervous flirtation. Angela's face is about to scream, yes! Joe is kind of shy that they would want to invite him as well because he's very insecure about his own appearance and he doesn't feel like he's attractive enough to be included in these things. And when Pina says they are both very attractive, you can hear their assholes clenching. Like they couldn't blush more if they wanted to. Angela and Joe are clearly interested and they're like asking for specifics, like how is this really gonna work? And Pina and Hawk are like, well, it's whatever you guys want, whenever you guys want. It doesn't have to be tonight, consider it an open invite, but it most definitely can be tonight if you guys want. Angela starts going through her schedule to try and find a time where it would be appropriate for them to do this. And then Joe accuses her of overthinking. And of course, they start bickering again. So Pina gets worried and she says, as horny as I am right now, we cannot do this from an angry place. I don't know what it is about her, but her delivery, it's perfection. I love Pina. I want to marry her, and I'm not even into women like that. And she's about to cancel the whole night, which sends Angela and Joe into a little bit of a panic. They're like, no, we're happy. Like, this is our version of happy. Please don't go. Let's do it tonight. And they kind of negotiate their way into, instead of doing like a night all together, all 4 together, they are gonna swap. Pina's gonna go with Joe, and Angela's gonna go with Hawk. So Pina and Joe go into the office, but before they go, Pina, it's another moment that I lost it. Out of nowhere, kisses Angela, takes her by surprise, takes her breath away. And then Angela goes, namaste.
Namaste.
The scream I scrumped. In the office, Pina puts on some music and starts dancing with Joe to try and loosen him up, until eventually she sits down and tells him to get naked. In the kitchen, Angela struggles out of her shirt. She does that without anyone's help. In fact, she gets naked, like in her underwear, before Hawk even takes a piece of clothing. She's fucking ready to go. And then he puts her up on the counter and he compliments her and says how beautiful she is. And she's like, oh, stop it. I'm not. And then he's like, do you not see how beautiful you are? Are you really that out of touch with yourself? And she says apologetically, oh God, no, I know. I'm a stupid fucking c.
No, I know I'm a stupid fucking c.
Out of nowhere, completely unprovoked. Even Hawk was like, whoa, what the fuck, lady? Calm down. Because you know that when Americans use c, it's fucking serious. And as she's about to have her world rocked by whatever has been making Pina scream upstairs, or whoever is screaming and growling that much, as Hawk is about to show her the real business, in the office, Joe is getting naked and he's clumsy and he trips and he falls and he hurts his back and starts screaming very loudly. And Angela, for a few moments, tries to ignore him, like, no, he's fine, keep going. But Joe gets too belligerent and too loud for anyone to ignore, so, he has officially cock-blocked the entire house. He crawls all the way to the living room, not wanting anyone's help, just wants to be left alone, but Hawk, against his will, fixes his back, because Hawk, ever since he retired from being a firefighter, has been learning rolfing. I think rolfing is like massaging, but like a deeper experience, as he describes it. When he describes his massage business, he also sounds like a white woman who's just moved to Bali to get in touch with her chakras and her energies and her spirits. It's difficult for both parties involved. But he fixes his back. Angela's had it. She's like, of course it's your back. My whole fucking life, it's about how bad your back is and how we can never do anything because of you. Pina tells him that his bad back isn't just the back. It's all of the pent-up resentment of the things that he's not sharing, that he's keeping bottled up inside. And Hawk tries relating to him as well, but that's the last straw. Like I said, Joe has a specific animosity towards Hawk. He's like, that's not even your real name. What's your real name? And his real name is Howard Wilson Kelly. Joe laughs at his name, Little Howie. How did we get from Howie to Hawk. So Hawk explains it happened with his wife's passing. Ooh, rough subject. But the whole story boils down to he was married before and his wife died. And then he was having suicidal ideations. And one day he was, I think, about to... And he saw his married life flash before his eyes like a movie. And throughout the movie, he noticed that his wife kept trying to share her more adventurous side with her, kept trying to share her fantasies with her. And instead of embracing her and exploring them with her, he kept shutting her down until eventually she stopped trying to share and she shut herself down. He suppressed her, which Angela very obviously relates to because that is in some way what she's going through with Joe right now. And at that point, Hawk met Pina, who told him in a session he can either, set himself on fire if that's what he wants, or he can truly change and make himself more available to experiences. Be less judgmental. And I guess in a way, be less patriarchal about himself, because the more heteronormative, patriarchal your relationship is, the more like it veers into traditional territory. And at that point, men are not allowed to talk about their feelings. Women are not allowed to talk at all. And it builds all of this like resentment and bottled up feelings where no one talks about anything. And Hawk had to change that. He had to make himself more available. He had to allow himself to be more vulnerable, which, some macho men would call as being gay, as being a as being a woman, and other people, smart people, would call it being emotionally intuitive and intelligent and healthy. So obviously this is a very vulnerable story that Hawk shares with the group. Angela is brought to tears, and Joe cracks a joke. He reduces the whole story to a crude joke about him liking being pegged and how Pina likes to peg him and pegs him. And Pina loses it a little bit. She's like, after the story that my boyfriend told you, and this is what you have to say, I'm really fucking disappointed, Joe. And then says, stop being unrespectful to my boyfriend. And Hawk corrects her and says, no, disrespectful. Disrespectful is what she meant. Oh, don't do that. Because now Pina turns her ire towards Hawk. She's like, are you fucking serious? You're going to correct my English right now? Do you know how bad your Spanish is? This is the moment? And then as it turns out, Hawk is the one who's been pushing Pina to do this dinner now, tonight, even though Pina had told him they're not ready for this invitation. And she let him convince her, and he's always pushing, and she's always letting him, and then she gets to the point, she's like, shut the fuck up. Just
Shut the fuck up for once. Just shut the fuck up, really.
So the perfect couple also argues. It's refreshing to know, at least. But Pina immediately apologizes to everyone involved. She apologizes to Joe for yelling at him. She apologizes to Hawk for yelling at him. And then Angela apologizes on behalf of the whole house. And then Hawk apologizes as well. And then it becomes an apology fest. And after all of that is done, Pina says, I just don't know how you guys have sex together because you're so mean to each other. Well, girl, here's the thing. They don't. In fact, and as it turns out, the last time they had sex was a year ago. Clean up on aisle 3 this time, because now Pina and Hawk's jaws are on the floor. And she says, no wonder why you're so awkward and horny and also weird. This all turns into a deeper conversation about Angela and Joe's relationship. And when Pina asks them how they met, Angela shares that she saw him performing with his band when she was on a date with some guy. And she was so fascinated by Joe and so attracted to him that she left with her date, ditched him, and then ran 11 blocks just to get back to where Joe was. That's why she was so sweaty when she got there. And Joe had never had any idea that she had done that. He just thought that she was a little bit sweaty, but, nothing much to it. And at first they had sex all the time, but then Angela says that he just decided to be miserable and he's been basically dragging the relationship down. And Joe is kind of offended that she would dismiss him being miserable as just him deciding to be miserable. He says that he's like that because he feels like a failure because his career as a musician never took off and he now teaches music in a bad school and he's still stuck in his parents' apartment where he grew up. Whereas Angela tells him that he never looks at the good side of things. Like he still works in music. He has a home. He has a daughter that's obsessed with him. And instead he chooses to dwell on the negative. And once again, they start bickering and arguing and Pina's like, well, look at you guys. Look at the way you talk to each other, the way that you're constantly blaming each other for your own unhappiness. And when asked why they're still together, they say that it's because of their daughter, Maggie. The typical couple that clearly needs to be divorced, but instead they stay together because of their kids. And as a product of one of those marriages, I'm telling you, get the fucking divorce. Just separate. Be happy in your own homes than miserable in the same home. That's always better for the kid. Be in positive environments, even if that environment doesn't include both of you at the same time at all times, which is exactly what Pina tells them. And then they get up and they leave. And Angela and Joe kind of agree that they need to get separated. So Angela goes to bed and Joe meanders into his office and he starts playing the piano. And he starts playing a little tune. And then Angela eventually joins him. And he finishes the song. And for the first time in probably years, she's heard him play the piano and they've somehow bonded over music. And that's the end. The ending is great because it's almost like Joe stopped playing music and it became a taboo subject for him once he accepted the failure in his life. And it was only after getting like all of these frustrations out, and it was only after opening the conversation to all the problems that their relationship is going through, that he has allowed himself to get in touch with his past self. And this is why you talk about things, because talking about your problems, even if you're not solving them the first time around, just talking about them, externalizing those feelings and those thoughts and putting them out there, that alleviates a lot of the pressure that you feel, and that almost opens up the world to new possibilities or even old possibilities. And it's almost like now that Joe has gotten it off his chest, he can allow himself to connect to his music again and play again without expectations of wanting to make it a career, just for fun, just getting in touch with his fun side again. It was a beautiful moment. And obviously it's not clear whether or not they're going to separate. Chances are they are. There is a slight possibility that they might not, because Pina also says earlier that sometimes we leave relationships and we enter relationships with other people. Sometimes we re-enter relationships with people that we've already been with, because times change and people change, intentions change. And sometimes it's just the timing that's not right, but the people are. And sometimes down the road in a few years, the relationship will work when both people are at different places in their lives. At least they've spoken about their problems. And this is why I say that it's better to have a small argument every day than to save it all up for that one time when you both explode at each other and then everything just comes out. And then once you wait enough time, whatever was bothering you at first, it starts to build into the resentment that you feel, and it starts to build into the long-term anger. So when you vocalize that problem, it's not just going to be the problem that you actually had, it's going to be the problem plus all of the frustration compounded onto it. And then it's going to come out a lot harsher and more blown out of proportion than it would have if you brought it up immediately. Anyone who hasn't watched The Invite, please go watch it. This is such a genius movie, beautifully written, beautifully acted, beautifully shot. My God, I'm so impressed. I was really not expecting this movie to go so hard, but it did. And so far, it's my favorite comedy of the year. Let's see if anything surpasses it. And I think that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to leave it a like down below. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Click the bell notifications to never miss a future upload from me. And follow me on my socials. They're all linked down below. All of the things. Comment down below if you watched this movie. What was your favorite joke? I'm sure there's others that I haven't included in this video. Some may not even make the cut because I've been yapping for a while now. So share down below your favorite moments. And until next time, stay safe, stay sane, stay stupid, and stay stuttering. Bye, guys.